good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you seem to think you are in the perceived world. We are with you, and let us all come now into this moment, remembering that the only time that is now. So center in, letting go of all thoughts of the past, all future predictions, all distracting thinking of any kind, and just be here now. So as you know, right now is the time of awakening, or rather, it's the time to wake up. Most of you are becoming more and more aware that there's got to be something other than this world. And there is. This world is not your home. This world is not real. And in fact, this world isn't even here at all. This is but a dream. And you, the dreamer of the dream. You are not the figure in the dream. You are not thrust about by outside forces or anything. What we want to teach you is to be more present and more aware in your experience so that you can utilize time appropriately, which is to use it to change your mind about what you perceive, which means to change how you perceive, which means to change what mind you are working with. Now, we have told you this before. You are of one mind, really, but you forgot. You thought, let me try it out. What would it be like to pretend like I am not one with all that is, you see? Let's see what that feels like. So, you drifted asleep. You dreamt a dream. You are still dreaming it. And that dream is your quote-unquote reality. We say quote-unquote reality because it's not really real, you see. All true reality is outside of the dream. It is not here. In fact, there is no here, really. If you think about it like this, understand that what you perceive is simply fiction, is simply an illusion, you see. This is an hallucination. So once you wake up, come present and aware, you can change your mind. Remember how we said you're the dreamer of the dream and not the figure in it. So you are the one who has the power to change how you look at things, how you interact with your world. You're either interacting with the mind of fear, which projects out feelings of hate or, well, fear, feelings of separation. Or you're using your right mind, which knows oneness and listens to the spirit within, you see. So, these are your options. In the world of duality, which is but an illusion, you have two parts to your mind, though your mind is truly only one, you see. And these two parts, you're always weighing the pros and cons. Which one works, which one doesn't. Really, it's which one gets me what I want, and which one leads me away from what I want. But what we want you to understand is what you do really want, you see. Because you have the ego mind, which is your wrong mind, okay? It thinks that it knows what you want, okay? And what it wants you to think that you want is that you're a separate individual being who needs to protect itself from all of everything else in order to perpetuate its story, you see. Your right mind, which is where the Holy Spirit is, tells you that this is but a dream. That identity, the separation isn't real, you see. You want to wake up from this dream. You want to let go of that personal identity which you have made up. Just let it go. And how do you do that? Well, You make peace with what is. You choose to operate from a mind of peace rather than from the mind of conflict. It will remind you the mind of conflict is the ego mind, is your wrong mind. The mind of peace is your right mind, where the Holy Spirit is. And it's part of who you really are. So we can go on and on and on with this, and we will. But we know that there are a lot of questions this time around, and we'll be able to address a lot of this within these conversations with these topics that have been brought to light to us. So we are ready for the first question.
Julie asks, could I ask our friend and brother Jesus for assistance in, quote, seeing with Christ vision? I consciously know that I can choose to perceive only with love and forgiveness, but often I react to what my ego seems to see. Thank you, and God bless you all.
And God bless you as well. So, first of all, we want to clarify this. What she's asking is, how shall I perceive? It isn't how do I see things through my physical eyes, because the vision that she's asking for help with is to see with the Christ mind. Christ does not use your eyes to see, but it knows, you see. It helps you by using your eyes to see the symbols you have made in order to lead you back home, you see. Now, to see with Christ means that you hand over your interpretations. Remember this, whatever you react to is not something outside of you, but you are reacting to a decision you have made. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So you can always change your mind, you see. You don't have to stay stuck in a negative feeling if you want to let it go. You can simply let it go, you see. You can say, this feeling is not part of the vision that Christ has. And I know that. So rather than going along with it, I'll forgive myself and let it go. We know that this is not necessarily easy. You are so identified with your interpretations, you see, so it's quite frightening to think of letting them go. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So what you want to do is ease up on yourself, lighten up about it, and say, I'm still learning. I'm still in the process of awakening. Sometimes I'm right on track. Other times I wander off. But all that is a call for forgiveness and a gentleness, you see. And then a reminding in the mind of what it is you do want. You want to wake up. So you want to take the steps laid out before you to wake up. So, does this answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. The next question is from Iya. She asks, I've been contemplating spiritual bypassing and how spiritual people may take the concept of forgiveness and bypass feeling their emotions, such as anger, and letting them organically transmute. For context, I realized that I was trying to skip ahead to the forgiveness part and be, quote unquote, like Jesus, but I found that actually wasn't possible without first feeling and acknowledging the truth of what was alive within me. Can you talk about this?
Yes, indeed. So what she's talking about is skipping steps, seeing if you could bypass all of these scenarios, these hidden dark corners within your mind, in order to just jump ahead and pretend like they're not there and just say they're all illusion and I'm out of here. It doesn't work like that. We know you wish that it could work like that, but really you don't, because if you did, you would have done that. But you're too afraid of that, so you've got to go forward step by step. It's not helpful to try to skip steps because you're really missing the point. You have to look at your hidden dark corners, because it is in the looking at them that they disappear. If you pretend like they're not there, they remain hidden and unhealed and unavailable for healing, you see. And let's see. You see, in order to really come to the light, you have to go through the clouds. Does this make sense?
Yes.
You have to confront, so to speak, your darkness, knowing that it's not real, not making it real, but looking at it. You see, and what that would be is your reactions to things that you experience. Your opinions, your interpretations, and all of that. They are the block to the awareness of love, you see. You say, no, this is what I think. I'm not open to changing my mind, or this is not up for debate. That's what the mind says. This is what I think, and this is true for me. Everything else is in attack. You can tell that you're in your wrong mind if you think everything else is in attack, you see. Rather than perceiving it correctly is, oh, this is a call for love, you see. This is a call for forgiveness. This may seem to be an attack, but I don't have to feel attacked. You know that you are in your ego mind if you are feeling attacked, and you are 100% identified with yourself as a body if you're feeling attacked. The mind of Christ never feels attacked, because the mind of Christ knows that it is untouchable by conflict, by fear, by darkness of any kind, you see. But the way to get to that is you have to look at your obstacles that you've set up and let them be corrected. You see, that's choosing to change your mind about them. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So, you're really slowing yourself down if you try to skip past that, you see. Because it is really that looking at this and letting this stuff go because you've seen it is part of the reason why you came here in the first place. If you didn't think you had all of these hidden dark spots, you wouldn't have come here to heal, you see. Does this make sense?
Absolutely.
Because if you came here knowing all that you truly are, you would have no problem. You would just say, wow, this is a crazy dream. Well, I can wake up because none of this is true. And I know that. So I can let it go. But none of you are there yet. We're just going to point that out to you. And this is not making fun of you or making you weak in any way. What we are showing you is that you're not yet there. But neither is anyone else who seems to think they are here, you see. Because in truth, there is no here. If you knew there was no here, you would be out of here, you see. But you believe in here, you believe in time, you believe in space, you believe in the body. So the way out of it is to look at it. We're not talking about looking in the mirror and looking at the physical form. We're not talking about that, but we're talking about looking at the contents of your mind, okay? So what is the purpose I have given to my experiences? You can tell what purpose you are giving to it by the kinds of thoughts that are drawn up or the feelings that arise. You see, if the purpose you have given everything is for peace, then you always look to see the peace in the situation. We don't mean look at a violent situation and find the peace in that, but we want you to look at that and find the peace of mind that is within you that you can always turn to regardless of the situation, you see. So that means you are seeing what is the illusion and letting it go with forgiveness, you see. So
So, thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.
Kayla,
We were going to finish up one more thing.
okay.
We were not sure because of what we thought there was something else to say.
No.
But what we were going to say is what we were talking about is it is so detrimental for you to think that you can skip steps because you're missing all of the healing. All of the healing comes from facing it, you see. All of healing comes from looking at your misperceptions with the Holy Spirit in order for it to be corrected and given back to you renewed, you see. So it's a replacement for the mistakes you have given, you see. Holy Spirit, here's what it is. Here's you. You say, this is what I see and what I think. Holy Spirit says, that is an illusion. Here's truth, you see. Now, we've talked about this before in this way. You can't bring light to the darkness because that would be looking to make what is unreal real. You have to bring your darkness to the light. When you bring your darkness to the light, it is shined away, you see. So that's why skipping over your hidden dark spots is pretending like it's not there, leaving it closed for healing, from healing, and therefore unavailable for healing. So what you want to do is ask the Holy Spirit to be your one guide, to help you see things truly, help you see the correction, and be willing to give up your interpretation and move forward from there. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question is from Kayla, and she asks, greetings and thank you so much, Jesus and Aaron. I'm intrigued with non-physical reality. Of course, ACIM teaches us that a life of fear is a suppressant, a life worshiping death. When a being kills their body, will they be born into the discord, the energy that caused them to kill themselves? Also, how do I better connect with my son in the beyond and trust the information? Thank you.
So let's start with the first question. Is she online?
She is not.
Okay. Well, with the first question, it was about an interest in spiritual.
It says the
Non-physical.
ACIM teaches us that a life of fear is a suppressant. When a being kills their body, will they be born into the discord, the energy that caused them to kill themselves?
Okay. So when she says the suppressant, what she's talking about is the block. Putting up a block to the awareness of true reality. That happens when you live in fear. You just put up this whole cloak of fear. I can't see anything but fear, you see. And as far as when someone kills the body, which we're going to say sounds like suicide, okay, does this being then enter into that energy? And we're going to tell you no. Not at all. Not at all. You see, what happens is they wake up, you see. But it might not be easy, and so we are going to tell you that on the other side there is a team or teams of beings to help all spirits transition from the illusion into true reality. So everything is gentle, everything is love, you see. Now if the mind is confused when the body dies, meaning, let's say someone is identified with the body and the body dies, there is a lot of confusion there. Because, and if someone doesn't know that they are spirit to begin with, then there's a little bit of a feeling of fear, of course, because without the body, what are you? Does this make sense? And so if this is what you mean, then temporarily one would come into that kind of feeling at first. But then, like we said, gently, these teams of love come to the aid of all and help you wake up from the nightmare. To realize that all that was a simple mistake, and it's nothing else, you see. The body is not real. You are not your body. You are spirit. You are eternal. So.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And we know the next question is how to connect with her son.
Yes.
In such a way, well, first of all, he's always talking to you. He hasn't left you. Physically, yes, but he's always with you. The way to hear him is to open your mind to the truth of his being. His being is not a body. He is spirit, he is pure, he is love, you see. And so you might not recognize him when he comes to you because he is joy, because he is light. So the way to connect with him more is just to open your mind to that thought. He is joy. He is light. He is healed. He is love. And the way to feel him is to lighten up, you see. He wants you to smile. He wants you to laugh. He wants you to feel his love, you see. So that's how you can hear him with more clarity. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next question is from Diana. She says, I'm experiencing severe anxiety. I'm horrified with Klaus Schwab's Great Reset and terrified of what's coming. I'm not afraid of death, but I don't want to live in pain or suffering in a Chinese-style controlling society. I also fear the forecasted global disasters. When you were on the cross, how could you endure the nails going in your hands and feet? It horrifies me to even think of it or any kind of torture, and I feel sad and hopeless. Does the body feel this pain for long before dying, such as you experienced? Does it hurt when we quit breathing? My ego plays horrible mind movies. Please help me by giving me a practice or mantra to trick my ego out of this. I would be so grateful and perhaps more at peace.
So let's start with the first question, which had to do with being on the cross. Did it hurt? Well, it wasn't comfortable, but I will tell you this. I felt no guilt. When you have no guilt, you don't feel things like pain. It's not easy to explain, you see. When you're identified with a body, you feel things that you interpret the body would feel. Here's the interesting thing. The body doesn't actually feel anything, but it is your own interpretations that have given this quote-unquote ability to the body to feel. Does this make sense?
Waiting for a response.
Basically, everything you experience is a decision that you have made in mind first, you see. So the body is a decision in mind first. And the body acts with whatever mind that you have chosen to use, you see, which would be the purpose you give the body. So if you give the body the purpose of pain and victimhood, then it will respond in that way, you see. But if you do not identify yourself as a victim or as the body, you will not feel these things. Does this make sense?
Yes, but it's hard to grasp.
Yes, it is. Because you're coming from and you're trying to grasp it from the body's point of view, you see, which is identifying yourself as a body, you see. And it's okay, most people do. So there's no no blame there, and there's nothing to feel bad about, but just realize that that is because you have made a decision. And what you want to do is to learn to choose again, to let go of your decision. You see. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So with everything that you do, everything you experience, you want to take that into your experience, you see. Knowing and taking responsibility for what you feel, you see. Such as the fear you were talking about. The fear that you were talking about does not actually come from those you were speaking of. Nor does it come from that thing that you were speaking of. What it comes from is your own mind's decision to have that kind of experience. And then you'll have to look at it and say, what is the contents behind all of that? Well, if it is fear, then it comes from your wrong mind, which means the purpose for this is separation. You see, how can I perpetuate separation but give myself this kind of experience in which the purpose for it is to drive myself deeper into fear and deeper into the false idea of separation, as though I am helpless. You see, you are not helpless. You are the mind that is dreaming. So you are all powerful, actually. And we're not talking about physically powerful. We're talking about you can change your mind, you can change which mind you're working with, you can change from a mind of conflict to a mind of peace, you see. And we're not saying that these things that you speak of are a walk in the park, nor are they pleasant to think about. But you don't have to let yourself go there in thought, in aligning with the feelings of fear, you see. But look at them as this is a decision I have made. We were telling the channel earlier that all of this is basically the screen which you have drawn up for you to project all of your hidden fears, all of your hidden hates, all of your hidden guilt out of you to look like it's something outside of you, when really it's all in your own mind. Now we also know this is not something that you can quite just say, yes, I get that. But think about it. This is a dream. Everything you look at with your physical eyes is but a screen with a movie. You think of the Matrix. It's a matrix. Does this make sense?
It's always the same answers, but how to trust? I need a way to go about a practice.
Okay. So you're not going to be able to trust personalities outside yourself. You're not going to be able to trust that which seems outside of you. So you want to go within to where your right mind is. Okay? And you want to say, you know what? All of this fear, I realize this is coming from my wrong mind, and I'm still feeling it, but I know I can change my mind, and I can, as I change my mind, let it go more and more. And I'm not going to pressure myself to let it all go, but I'm just going to do this little by little as it comes up. Or even if I get tempted to have mind-wandering excursions and find myself taken aback and frightened by some piece of news, I can say to myself, oh yeah, I forgot. Well, I can come back again and say, in this moment of fear, I chose the wrong mind. I'm not going to beat myself up about that. I'm not going to beat myself up about having this experience of fear, but I am going to at least point out to myself that this is something that I can change. I may not be able to change the outside circumstance or the external circumstances, but I can change how I look at this. And I do want to look with the Holy Spirit. I do want to look with my right mind. And so I will ask, how do you see this, Holy Spirit? How does my right mind perceive this? What I understand is that from that point of view, I am not a victim of anything external from me, but only a victim of my own decisions. Does this make sense? So this is a practice of mindfulness, you see.
Yes. Can this anxiety be due to brain inflammation, due to toxicity?
Well, all we can say is everything here is illusion. And so you wouldn't attribute those experiences to something external from you, you see. Yes, they may manifest in certain ways. So what you're saying, they could manifest in that way, but don't see it as something external happening to you from things outside of you, you see. Just say, okay, these are my decisions. This is how my decisions manifest. What I can do about that is I can be at peace with that and not beat myself up for it, and just love myself and do whatever it is I need to do to ease whatever it is and take care of myself and be loving, gentle. Does this make sense?
Waiting for an answer.
Basically, we want you to remember that the cause of everything you experience is a decision in your own mind. So your mind is the cause, not the external things you see.
Oh, yes, okay. This, I must listen again.
Yes.
Much love. Thank you.
Much love to you too, in fact. And really it is about coming back to, or bringing it back to your mind. When you find yourself projecting out, stop in that moment, bring it back to your mind, because that is the source of everything you experience. So, thank you.
The next question is from Catherine D. Could Jesus explain what love is and to expand on how to love unconditionally without special love? I understand the concept, but emotionally, I'm not sure. For example, I perceive there to be some very evil individuals who wish to bring tyranny and control the world. When I see a photo of those individuals, such as George Soros, Bill Gates, and Klaus Schwab, I feel revulsion for what they are trying to do to humanity. I am trying to understand how to be loving without exclusion. I realize that this is judgment, but they seem to wield a lot of power and ill will in this earth game. I would really appreciate a practical approach to master this skill. Thank you muchly.
So, like we were saying to the other question before, this is a screen in which you are using to project all of your hidden fears, all of your guilt that you don't want to look at, you see. And like we were saying at the very beginning, you have to look at your hidden dark spots in order to move into the light. So, here's your opportunity. So, the way to love, and you asked about love. Love is not something that we can tell you about in words. It is outside of the world, okay? It is beyond the dream, you see. But love is, you see. And when we say love is, that means it is all-inclusive, not exclusive. That is not easy for a body to fathom, but you're not a body, you are a mind, you see. So how to love without condition? Well, you have to get out of your own way, which means you have to take yourself out of the idea or thought of yourself as a body, because a body can never do that. You have to take yourself out of that mind frame and turn to the mind instead and say, okay, all inclusive. Now, when we say that, we're not talking about loving personalities, you see. See, what happens is true love overlooks personalities altogether. They don't exist. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does.
So you can think of this, okay? So if you're looking at these individuals, don't look at them like, here's this awful person doing these awful things. That's all you're seeing is the awful person and these awful things. So you're looking at this personality made up by you and by them, and then you're in agreement with this thing, and you come together to hate. you can let that go and look beyond it instead and say, what I'm seeing is illusion. I can't love this, you see, because this is not who we really are. Does this make sense?
Yes, no, thank you. So to look upon them as, oh, this is the personality,
Yes.
and this is not real.
It's not real, and what they seem to be doing is but a story. And sure, I believe it, otherwise I wouldn't have these feelings. But I can let that go too. I can at least lighten up about it in such a way as this is a story. This is not eternity. This is temporary. They seem very powerful because that's what you have given them, you see. So basically you've turned your mind's power over to someone outside of you, you see. And the thing is, in this plane of existence, money is very powerful seeming, you see. In true reality, it's nothing. If true reality were to enter right now, all of this would disappear, you see. Wrong minds would be righted, fear would be turned to love, conflict to peace, and everything would go on, you see. But you believe so strongly in the illusion that we can't just come in. If we did that, you would be thrown for a loop, you see. Because everything that you thought was true, you'd learn is not. And we're not here to aggressively bring you back to love. That would not be very loving. Do you agree?
Yes, no, I do agree. It was just, we spoke about graduating,
Yes.
and then the 3 steps was to turn to the Holy Spirit as a teacher. So completely understand that. Learn the lessons, completely understand that. It was just loving without exclusion. I was just, I was pondering it a lot, actually. And then I thought, okay, let me give it a whirl. And then I saw these, and you hear the news and blah, blah. And I just thought, I don't like this. And so how do I do that? So I think...
Okay, this is a good question. We're going to say it like this. So what you're seeing is separation, okay? What we want you to see is sameness rather than separateness or differences, you see. So even though they appear in the dream to be high and mighty and powerful, they're terrified. They wouldn't agree with that because they wouldn't know what we're talking about. But they're terrified of love, which is why there are acts that may seem to happen that are not of love. Why? To keep love away, you see. And that is so fearful. Well, you can say to yourself, well, how I feel about them is showing me that we're the same. You see, we both have this problem. We both kind of have this problem where we think that what we think is probably the most right thing. And God doesn't know that, so we're just going to make sure that we put that in front of God and go along our merry way. Then you say, but my merry way is not very merry, and I want to wake up. So,
yeah, thank you so much. I think just to try and have the clarity to separate the personality was really helpful, because I'm very practical and I like just having sensible, practical tips that I can apply that make sense, because sometimes it's quite hard to separate the body. And the other day I was thinking, well, I quite like this body I've created. It's going to be hard to let go. So I get that the ego is, or that we identify as a body, and it's a tricky business being here on planet Earth, I have to say.
yes, it is. It can be. It doesn't have to be, but it can be.
That was really helpful. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, what we were also saying with the whole sameness thing, this, once you get past the personality stuff, begin to implement the idea of sameness. Okay, we are all afraid. We're all afraid. If we weren't afraid, we'd all be loving each other and all happy with one another. But because we're not, you can tell that there's a lot of fear. And that fear is like a god, you see. And so we play the game of fear rather than the game of freedom, which is forgiveness, because it's just so scary. So rather than holding myself apart, meaning saying I'm separate from all of these personalities, well, you are not part of the personalities, but you want to say, okay, we're really kind of on the same page, though we're expressing them completely different. Once you get to that point, then you're able to look at it and realize there is nothing there. Does this make sense? This takes a lot of practice. So we're not expecting anybody to get this right off the bat. But you do have to come eventually to that point of sameness, which is sort of the earthly example of oneness, but not like the oneness that we are talking about with God. You see? Does this make sense?
Yes, no, that's very, very helpful. But why are we're so afraid of love because we lose the ego? Is that?
Yes. You're so afraid of love because the personal identity that you have made up would disappear, you see. But you're deeply invested in that. We're not just saying you, we're talking about humanity in general. Deeply invested into maintaining a separate identity because it's just so darn cool. Even if it hurts, you see. So yes, it is, the fear is because the ego wants you to believe, and actually it's want you to believe that you and the ego are one, because the ego is not a separate part of you, okay? The ego is not something out there that's doing this and that to you. It's your own mind making a decision to either identify with the ego or identify with spirit, you see. And the way that you can choose between the two is to become aware of both of them. So you can become aware of the times when you are at peace and you find that, wow, I really got through the day loving and I was kind to everyone, and even that time that man was so aggressive towards me, I just looked on him as a call for love. That's working with spirit. Or that man who came at me, I freaked out, I went crazy, and I did something horrific, you see. And then that would be identifying with the ego. Does this make sense?
Yes.
And those are more extreme examples. They can come about as just irritation, or that would be a good one, irritation. Just a little ticked off about something. So those little indicators will tell you which mind you're working with. But you remember that you can always change your mind. You can always choose again. You don't have to stay there when you notice that you're where you don't want to be, you see. And this means where you don't want to be in mind, you see. So.
No, thank you very much. It seems kind of crazy we'd be afraid of love. I mean, it's the thing we want the most.
It does, and the thing is, it is crazy. It is crazy, but the ego is crazy and you're crazy.
Thank you.
We're saying that because this goes for everyone. You're crazy for choosing the ego over love. So. But remember, sameness. You share that with pretty much everyone. So. But what you want to do is come to a point where you share only love, where you share only forgiveness, where you share only gentleness. And you will indeed come to that point as you continue to practice what we teach. So.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is from Joel. And Joel asks, my emotional feeling body is out of control, and I cannot always function properly. I can't return to work like this. Out of nowhere, I can be gripped with emotional thoughts of loss, regret, so forth and so on. It doesn't seem to matter if it comes from ego or Holy Spirit mind. Either way, these unwanted thoughts bring the emotional pain gripping my solar plexus like a lightning thunderstorm going off, and then I cannot function right. This has been going on for a little while now, a little too long, I think. What do I do?
Okay, Joel.
Hello.
Hello. So, we want to remind you of something because we see where you're coming from. You just lost two quote-unquote people who were a big part of your life. Your mother and your dear cat. It's not something you can just get over like that. Does this make sense?
Yeah, and I might have lost my father too, as he's missing in action. I don't know where he's at.
So you have that feeling too.
Yeah, I'm getting nailed here.
So the way to go about this is just to remind yourself, nothing is lost in the mind of love. Nothing. I might perceive it to be lost, but that's only because I really believe that I'm lost. And how can I be lost if I still remain in the mind of God? I can't really. So, therefore, I am not a body. I am spirit. So remind yourself of this throughout, you see. That the feelings of missing someone comes from the false idea of separation. Does this make sense?
Well, I can't so much say I'm missing people right now. It's more about dealing with what I'm dealing with, opposed to missing them. It's just that emotional grip. I think it's an anxiety more than anything else. And I think as you were answering a lot of other people, I think you were giving me a lot of answers. But I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
Oh, no, it's okay. Well, what we were going to say is you might not perceive it as missing someone or anything like that, but you're reacting in such a way that would kind of lead to that thought. So if you did not feel as though you were missing something, you wouldn't have that anxiety. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So if you were fully in your right mind, which would mean that you would know that you miss nothing, you are missing nothing, you are everything, you would have no anxiety. It's a condition of the false idea of separation. So, but how to let it go? You be kind to yourself. We've told you this a lot of times. We're just going to continue to tell you this. Be gentle with yourself. And remind yourself that you are not alone. That there is nothing to really be anxious about. Because you are still as God created you, you see. You are eternal. And you are everything. We knew that this would be quite a packed session, but we want to let everyone know that your questions that have not been answered are being saved for the next time, and they will be answered. We love you, and we thank you all for joining with us today. It has been a wonderful pleasure, as always. We are with you eternally, and you are blessed, and we are with you always. We love you. Namaste.